Karen's smirk could curdle milk, but the old man's trembling fist was what made the street go silent. She didn't just steal his flags, she spat on his life's honor and expected applause. In the quiet town of Willow Creek, where every porch sported red, white, and blue, Karen Walsh had declared war on tradition. She called it tacky, a visual assault on her pristine neighborhood aesthetic. To her, the flags that lined Old Man Harper's yard weren't tributes to fallen comrades, they were clutter. So, under the cover of a moonless night, she ripped them down, one by one, and tossed them into her SUV like garbage. By morning, the town was buzzing, and Harper, a Vietnam vet with scars deeper than skin, stood in his yard, staring at the empty poles, his heart breaking all over again. Harper wasn't just any veteran. At 72, he was a fixture in Willow Creek, a man who'd carried shrapnel in his leg since '68 and still showed up every Memorial Day to place flags for the fallen. His hands, rough as sandpaper, had planted each one with care, each a memory of a friend who never came home. Karen, though, didn't care about history. She'd moved to Willow Creek 2 years ago, fleeing the city with her yoga mats and her HOA dreams. To her, Harper's display was an eyesore, a blight on her vision of suburban perfection. She'd complained at town meetings, posted rants on the community app, and even left passive-aggressive notes in Harper's mailbox. Time to modernize, one read. Harper ignored her. So she took matters into her own hands. The morning after the theft, Harper stood in his yard, his faded army jacket hanging loose on his frame. His neighbors gathered, murmuring, some offering coffee, others promising to help replace the flags. Karen, however, wasn't hiding. She strutted out of her house across the street, her blonde bob bouncing, and faced the crowd with a shrug. "It's just flags," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "This isn't a military base. We deserve a clean street." The gasps were audible. Harper's eyes locked on hers, and for a moment, it seemed he might charge. Instead, he spoke, his voice low but cutting like a blade. "Those flags were for men better than you'll ever know." The crowd stilled. Karen rolled her eyes. What Karen didn't know couldn't have known was that Harper's daughter, Emily, was watching from the edge of the crowd. Emily Harper wasn't just the apple of her father's eye, she was a state senator, 36 years old, with a reputation for dismantling anyone who crossed her. She'd grown up hearing her father's stories of sacrifice, of brothers lost in jungles and deserts, and she'd built her career on protecting veterans' rights. Emily had been visiting her father that weekend, staying low-key in his modest home. Now, as she watched Karen's performance, her jaw tightened. She didn't step forward, not yet. She let Karen dig her own grave. The confrontation escalated by noon. Karen, emboldened by the silence of some neighbors who secretly agreed with her, doubled down. She posted a video on the town's social media group, holding up one of Harper's flags like a prop. "This is what's ruining our curb appeal," she declared, tossing it into a trash bin for dramatic effect. The video went viral in Willow Creek's small digital sphere, racking up angry emojis and comments calling her everything from entitled to soulless. Karen didn't care. She thrived on the attention, mistaking outrage for influence. She didn't notice Emily in the background of her own video, quietly filming on her phone, her face unreadable but her intent clear. By evening, the town square was a powder keg. Word had spread, and a crowd gathered outside Karen's house, not for violence but for answers. Harper stood at the front, his voice steady but heavy with grief. "You didn't just take my flags," he said, loud enough for the street to hear. "You took my brother's memory." Karen, standing on her porch, scoffed. You're being dramatic. It's just cloth. That was the moment Emily stepped forward. The crowd parted. Karen's smirk faltered as Emily, in a crisp blazer and with the poise of someone who'd faced down bigger bullies, introduced herself. "I'm Senator Emily Harper," she said, her voice calm but laced with steel. "And you just made a very public mistake." Karen's face drained of color. She stammered, trying to backtrack, but Emily wasn't there to argue. She'd already sent the video to her contacts, local news, veteran advocacy groups, even a few national outlets. Within hours, Karen's name was trending, not for the clout she craved but for infamy. The headlines were brutal: "Woman trashes Veterans Memorial, Karen's flag fiasco sparks outrage." Comment sections tore her apart, and her social media accounts were flooded with demands for accountability. Willow Creek's mayor, a friend of Emily's, called an emergency town meeting. Karen was invited to explain herself. She didn't show. The fallout was swift. Karen's employer, a real estate firm, suspended her after clients began pulling their listings. Her neighbors shunned her, their porches now adorned with more flags than ever in solidarity with Harper. Emily didn't stop there. She introduced a bill in the state Senate to protect veteran memorials on private property, naming it the Harper Act after her father. It gained bipartisan support overnight, fueled by the viral story of Karen's arrogance. Harper himself didn't gloat. He spent his days replanting flags, each one a quiet act of defiance. But the town noticed he walked a little taller, his limp less pronounced. Karen, meanwhile, unraveled. Her SUV, once parked proudly in her driveway, was gone repossessed after she missed payments, her finances strained by legal fees from a civil suit Harper filed. She tried to apologize, posting a tearful video claiming she didn't mean to offend. It was too late. The town had turned its back, and her name was now a synonym for entitlement. She moved away a month later, her house sold at a loss to a veteran's family who promptly planted a flagpole in the front yard. The ending wasn't triumphant, though. Harper sat alone one night, holding a faded photo of his old unit, men who'd never see their flags fly again. He didn't hate Karen, he pitied her, a woman so wrapped in her own ego she couldn't see the pain she caused. Emily, too, felt no joy in her victory. She'd won, but at the cost of exposing her father's quiet grief to the world. Willow Creek healed, its flags waving prouder than ever, but the scars of that day lingered. A community divided by one woman's hubris had to reckon with what unity really meant. Was Karen just a product of a self-obsessed culture, or did the town's outrage go too far? Share your thoughts on where justice lies in this clash of pride and honor.